Welcome, everybody, to Panfish Nation. Tonight, along with James Dockery, I'm Lyle Stokes. And James, it's a pleasure to have you on here with me tonight. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff. But first, we would like to wish Sheila a fast recovery. I know that Mark and her are having some struggles here. She's not feeling well, so I hope keep her in your thoughts and prayers, and Mark will appreciate it, I know. And
That's right.
hopefully that will get lined out really soon. James, before we go to talking to everybody and about everybody, you know, you know how talking about everybody is.
Yeah.
I got some stuff in the mail the other day, and you'll appreciate this. I'm going to enlarge myself here. Bad Ass Baits, AZZ Baits. I got these from them. Sent these to me the other day, and I got a whole box full of them. They look really cool. They are 2 1/4, James, which I know that's a little longer than you prefer to use as a rule. But man, don't them things look awesome?
Those look really good.
They look
Actually,
really good. I got one more here. There's a whole box of it. I got one more I'm going to show you. Um, and best I remember, you're not a fan of pink, but I know so many people
no.
are.
That's no. That's not true. I'll use pink.
You'll use pink?
Oh yeah.
Come on, focus. Them look really cool. They really do. But I want to thank them guys. These things look awesome. I can't wait to try them out. Hope I can catch some crappie on them. They might be a little big for bluegills, but you never know. I might trim one down.
There you go.
So let me exit out of there so I don't look so big in monstrosity. But yeah, I really like them, and I got a whole box, so I'm happy.
Put
I'm
them to
always
good
happy.
use. That's for sure.
Heck yeah, man. Yep, all the lights and stuff around here. Weather's going to warm up really quick for long. So at least I'm hoping so. Josh sent a message. I like that. What do you say we announce some of the people that's in chat tonight, James?
Go ahead.
All right. Up in the air is the first one on the list. Now there was a couple of people here ahead of him. Mike Sampson was one of them, but sometimes it resets in the beginning for whatever reason. Glad to have you in here, Mike Sampson, Dan Thompson. Jay is outdoorsy. If you guys haven't checked Jay out, please do so and check out his YouTube channel. He will be our guest next week on the show. Jay ties a lot of cool jigs. He lives in New York State, so he does a lot of walleye stuff and even some bigger things that we do, but you can adapt them all to what all we do. So it'll be a fun show. We're going to really enjoy having him on here. And like I say, go check out his YouTube channel and give him a sub. He'd appreciate it. And we want to welcome him in here next Thursday night. There's Kenneth Takedown Catfishing, Joe Buck 66, Adventures with Robin C, Real and Virtual Outdoors. Hey Troy, how's it going? There's Mark with Catfish and Crappie. Mark will be back with us next week. Steve Ransom, Nubby's Catfishing. They're going a little faster. There's Matt with Wannabe Outdoors. Tim Molina's in here. Dominic Hollick Fishing. Hey, Dominic, how's it going? Uncle Jeep. So is the angry man fishing tonight? No, he's taking a break. Brad Caudell. I'm having to go down through. Lance McCouga is in here with us. Team Snagging Whisters Dustin. Crappie Dave Fish on. Chucky's in here. Hey, buddy. I'm James Allball. Welcome. Keith, NWPA Fishing. Good evening, sir. Oh, Get Hooked on D is in here. I know that Katie's sitting right beside you.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she's always right there. I think she
Indeed,
does.
it is absolutely the best fields there is. Trust me.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And member of our channel also. Thank you, Dee.
that's right.
You're so special. Up in here. Got the Justin's Fishing Fetish. Welcome, Justin. Dockery and Pops. Creole says it's Dockery time, and you're right about that. Hello, David Smith. Welcome, my friend. David doesn't live that far from me. He just lives down Little Rock. Don
There you go.
Johnson, welcome. Let's see. 61 South Outdoors. Hey, Rob. Glad to see you in here tonight. Big Slim 91. Let's see. Missy Kennedy, welcome. I have to say, after having Missy on the show the other night, James, or a week or two ago, I did go by Hobby Lobby, and I did get some of the stuff that was down there, and it worked out really well. Now, the other thing that I did was ordered some of the stuff from Walmart online because my Walmart doesn't have anything. Well, you know, you've been in it.
Yeah, I was going to say your Walmart lucky if it's got 4 or 5 aisles in it. That's probably
It's
about
pretty
it.
tiny, yeah. But I got some marabou from Walmart, and it's brand name stuff, just like you buy from any fly tying shop.
So right.
So you can get marabou out of there, and it's good, high quality stuff. So I enjoyed that part of it, and the other
Deal.
stuff's all working out good too. Actually, it really is. Ricky, real, welcome. You know, James, there's somebody split shot balls.
We talk about you don't have to call out every name.
I think
Lyle.
it's funny.
I know.
There's one of the crew that is actually having to work tonight. I find that extremely funny. And hey, Big Bill's veteran catfishing. I think that's funny. LG Bass, welcome. There's Mike Sampson. Fishing was a squirrel, another guy that we're going to have on here before long. And if you haven't checked out his video about finding fish all over the place. Now he has Lowrance stuff, James. I know you and I are going to talk about that here in a little bit. You don't
Yep.
have any electronics. You're
Electronics.
finding yours without them, but he does a great job of explaining how to find fish with electronics, and that's what we're going to talk about when we have him on the show. So that will
There
be
you
a
go.
lot
That'll
of
be a
fun.
good show. Yep.
There's Creo 922 Crappie Barbecue. I'm trying to go through these as fast as I can. They tell me I'm too slow at it, but Northeast Missouri Angler, welcome. But there, I don't think there's an end to it. We got to be getting close.
Well, surely there's everybody.
Parker Pursuits, KY Redneck Outdoors. I get one red, and there's Melissa.
Another one
Welcome,
pops up.
Melissa. Yep, they do. I think Mark made Melissa, or I did last week, a moderator. We're glad to have her in here. She does such a good job on the late night stuff that they do.
She does.
Oh, there's the last one at the bottom of the page. Is Danny Stone Outdoors. Welcome, Danny. Glad to see you in here. That says split baits. I got you, man. I got you. Oh man. So when let's just jump right into it, James.
Okay, let's do it.
You don't like fishing the same body of water too many times in a row. You want to move around.
I do actually want to move around.
And when you do, you always have to find structure or fish In my case, I feel like finding the fish. If you find a structure, you'll find a fish.
Right.
Pretty much.
Pretty
So
much.
why don't you tell us how you find fish, crappie, bluegill, whatever, bass, whatever it is, when you go to a new body of water?
All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is if I'm going on a road trip, say I'm going down to visit Rob or I'm going to visit you or something like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up Google Earth, and it's going to show me in the green areas that basically are public lands, whether there's lakes, rivers that run through there, streams, creeks, lakes, ponds, whatever the case may be. They've got those bodies of waters on there. What I'll do from there is I'll see if there's a website for that lake, because that generally will give you a little bit of information about what's in those lakes and what you can target while you're there. Sometimes it's kind of a little iffy on, because most of these websites and stuff like that, what they'll do is they'll list your top fish, your bass, your channel cat, crappie, bluegill, right, and that's it. But the thing about it is there are some lakes, especially down around your area, over east and stuff like that, that have got kind of a specialty fish. They're native to this area, the dollar sunfish. You've got the Ozark bass, the shadow bass. You've got, warmouths, all this stuff. And those are the ones that I'm going to be trying to target as either a new species I haven't caught or to try and beat my personal best. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to look at that lake or that pond or that stream, whatever, and I'm going to see where the runoffs are or the run-ins to where there's, there may be a low spot where there used to be a creek or something like that before they dammed it up, or, an erosion spot or something like that. That tells me that at some point in time, if there's sticks or limbs or whatever the case may be falling down into that body of, or into that part of the land, it's going to end up out there in the water at some point. Now, if it doesn't get out too far, pretty much you're going to know exactly where the structure is, because it's going to be sticking up out of the water. But a lot of times, even the small stuff, and a lot of people, they overlook this, structure actually can be small. It doesn't have to be these big, massive red cedars or hardwood trees that the conservation department or something like that has fallen and put it into the water and stuff like that. You're going to have all of the smaller fish, up and through there, and what they're eating your dragonfly larvae, the damselfly larvae, the small snails, your small crayfish and crawfish and stuff like that inside these bodies of water, and that's why they're conjugating around through there. So that's going to be the first thing that I'm looking for. The second is I'm going to go to the MDC website, and most states have the sites and stuff like that available to the public if they have put habitat inside these bodies of water. And it could be the red cedars. It could be, they've started using the plastic ones, which some states are trying to do away with and stuff like that, because of, it actually being plastic in the waters, polluting the waters and stuff like that. But they're gonna GPS mark those, whether you can get to them from the bank, whether you get to them from a boat, that kind of stuff, because most of the time they kind of even out as far as where they place them in that body of water. And they'll put some in for bank fishermen, they'll put some in for the boaters and stuff like that. A lot of times the docks and stuff that they place in the ADA docks are a structure-free zone. There's not supposed to be anything directly below the ACA dock, but there's a really good chance that somebody has gone along and dropped a couple of trees in the middle of the night. So just, kind of take that into consideration. Also, I do anyway when I'm fishing around this area. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start marking areas, just on a piece of paper that, okay, this is where I want to try to fish first. I want to see if this brush pile is still here. I'm going to try to see if this brush pile is still here. And if there are no public drop-offs, then I'm going to go back to the Google Earth and find out where those ravines have come in. And that's where I'm going to start fishing. I'm going to start fishing, 10 feet out, try to get 20 feet out, 30 feet out. And I'm just going to cover that whole entire body of water where I can from the bank, just using my rod and reel. And if I start, noticing I get some crappie or some, smaller bass or bluegill or something like that, that's going to indicate to me right off the bat that there is some sort of a structure down there. It may not be big structure, but it's going to be structure nonetheless. Then what I'm going to do is once I start going down the list of things, that I want to make sure that this lake has in. If it's a target fish that I'm after, I mean, crappie fishing is my favorite. I do a little bit of bass fishing, not a lot, a little bit of catfishing, not a lot. Bluegill, I'll fish for those. If I really, if the crappie are completely locked jaw, that's when I'll start going through there to those guys. But I'm also doing this, if I'm fishing in my belly bag, or I'm fishing in my kayak or a small John boat that I've got. Any of those will actually, they work just as well too. And no, I don't have any electronics, not even a depth finder, so it's pretty much, row or the little small 30 power trolling motor I think I've got is all I've got. So that's pretty much about it. But once I figure that out, and I start going actually down, driving down through there, I'm looking for around that area. You'll have, maybe a bait shop. Bait shops, you're going to get a little bit of information. You're not going to get a lot. All right. And if there's a fisherman down in there, as well as I do, most of these guys, they'll give you general information, but they're not going to give you exact spots.
That's right.
They may tell you, yeah, well, they're biting, they're not biting, something like that. But the best information that I've ever gotten from, most people is I'll actually go and hit these small restaurants. And it's odd because between the hours of like 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock, there's always coffee drinkers inside these small little restaurants, always. And they're all sitting at what they call the coffee table, and they're all drinking. And every single one of these, have been fishing around that lake. And if you start talking to them, they'll give you some information too. And that you can take that information and move on to, to other things. But one thing that you've got to make sure of also is, especially if I'm going to fish a pond, all right, and it's on Missouri Department of Conservation land, or it's on the Missouri State Park land, stuff like that, I'm not looking just around the lake itself. I'm looking a mile, 2 miles out. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for cropland. I'm looking for like hay fields, that type of stuff. And the reason that that's kind of important is anytime you have an area where you're using fertilizer on your property and stuff like that, if there's any type of runoff, that's going to run off into a creek. It's going to run off into a pond. It's going to run off into a lake. What that's going to do is that's going to give the algae and the moss and all that stuff inside of these lakes a better chance at surviving and thriving. And don't get me wrong, all right, having plant life in your pond it's great if it's controlled. The problem is a lot of these places, they don't control it. They just, they let it go. And then it
gets away from them.
It does get away from them. And then all of a sudden you've got an algae bloom that kills up to 50% of the fish, if not more, inside these lakes and ponds and stuff. And that's usually what happens when you hear about a fish die off or a fish kill off and stuff like that is an algae bloom has caused all of the oxygen to be sucked out of the water, and these fish are dying. So, but that's something to also take into consideration and find out when the last time a fish kill is or was at that body of water. You can go online and find out more information than you used to be able to even 10, 15 years ago. Everybody and their brother, they love writing reviews, whether it's about hotels, whether it's about road conditions and fishing lakes. I mean, it's there.
What about snowing?
What's that?
What about people want to talk about when it snows?
Well, those people are. And listen, I am trying to be nice and civil tonight. So let's stick to this, and you save your snotty little comments to the end of the show.
Excuse me.
and I swear to God, if somebody does not record Lyle snorting during this live stream, we're all going to have us go. But no, a lot of that information, I mean, it's in reviews, and they'll tell you, or they'll put up a picture, and there might even be a Facebook group for that particular lake or pond or whatever, or that area, and that'll give you a lot of information. And take information that you get with a grain of salt, because sometimes people, they'll build their stuff up and yeah. Oh, I know that nobody's watching for me to be civil, but I'm trying this new thing this year that I don't want to grow up when I get old and crippled, like Rob and stuff like that, that I'm not, bitter about everything. So, he's my new target, by the way. So just because every day he sends me these stupid dad jokes every day out of the blue, and it's just like, dude, really?
Hey, Laura. Good to see your angler in here tonight too.
But all that information is out there, and then once you figure out that the good spots and stuff like that, guys, everybody and their brother on YouTube tells you exactly how to fish. They do, and they want to be remembered, for their ability to go out and put a limit of crappie or a limit of bluegill or a limit of catfish or bass or whatever the case may be, in a picture to say, to tell people how great and wonderful they are. Here's the thing. You guys are honestly catching good, decent fish. Ignore the rest of us. Keep doing what you're doing and forget about everything else. If you've got a day where you don't feel like bringing any fish home or something like that, and you think, you know what, today's the day that, I'll try that little technique out, do it then. But for the most part, stick with what you know.
What about the guys that are at the dock or wherever when you're fishing, they try to help you out right there?
Oh, see, now you're just really pushing my buttons. I mean, you're really trying to get me going. And yes, I get that quite a bit. And
it amazes me that the guy that's sitting there catching fish gets instructions from the guy that's not even fishing.
But and I think I do think that we all go through that, though. I mean,
yeah.
Even in videos or something like that, well, you weren't doing this right. You should have been doing it this way, or should have been doing it that way. And guys, and that's why I say, if you're successful at catching a certain, species of fish in a certain way, keep doing it. The hell with what other people are trying to tell you to do. And if you are one of those people that, think that you have to voice your opinion every time you go fishing to somebody that's out there on a fishing dock, careful, because you might end up going for a swim one of these days.
You never know. I mean, it could happen. I think that is really quality information. And I will tell you, James, I use Navionics a lot, as you know.
Yep.
And on the lakes, like Lake Ozark, Truman, Pomme de Terre, they have a lot of the structure, like you was talking, submerged trees and stuff. They have a lot of that marked on Navionics. Now, I did want to go back to something you had mentioned earlier about some of these people in these lakes, whether it be conservation department or whatever, putting cedar trees and stuff like that in. You'd mentioned plastic structure. Are they including that now because it will last forever? Or is there another reason behind that?
Okay, when you put in, say, the most common one are your Christmas trees, your red cedars, that type of stuff. On average, those cedar trees, once they drop them in the water, will last 5 years. After 5 years, you're down to just a stump, pretty much, in the brick that they use to tie it to sink it down with.
Right.
So they have to go out, they have to redo it. Well, they started using this plastic and the PVC and stuff like that for making these fish habitats. Here's the problem. you have environmentalists coming out and yelling and screaming that, they're finding all these different plastics in the waters and stuff like that, in the oceans and stuff like that. And they're actually doing more studies now, freshwater, where they're seeing the plastic, increase the amount of plastic that they've seen in the water itself. And guys, these are microscopic plastics. Okay, they're seeing it in fish, they're seeing it in plant life, that type of stuff. And a lot of it is because of people losing things overboard, or careless fishermen. They just throw their used plastics back into the water after a day of fishing and stuff like that, instead of taking them home and dispose of them properly. And some bodies of water have actually restricted to natural habitats only. So, but the plastic ones, they do last longer. But once somebody figures them out, and this goes with, a lot of it, we have seen where if a plastic structure is put into the water, it will attract fish. Do not get me wrong. All right. And they do wonderful jobs, and they're supposed to be snag-free structures, but I know people that will actually get snagged up on them. I'm being one of them.
Yeah.
And you have people that once they find them, well, they don't want anybody else to use them, so they'll move them.
Really?
And yeah, we've seen a lot of that. So you go, to a GPS coordinates, and you're expecting to find, a structure there that was placed by, a state department or a conservation department, somebody like that, and they're gone. And so, that's kind of the thing that you need to also keep in mind, is that some of these structures were old. Some of them may have gotten moved. Some of them got hooked in a boat, anchor line or something like that, and drug off. You may have to look around for them a little bit. So just kind of keep that in mind, and do your homework. That's the main thing.
I'll tell you something that always has surprised me, James. We have a lot of standing timber in these lakes around me, and some of that stuff's been standing in there for 60, 70 years.
That is the hardwood.
Yeah, but to stand that long in water,
right?
That's amazing.
But those were big trees.
Yeah, big oaks.
All right, and whether people want to admit this or not, Missouri is still a cold water state. Our water doesn't really get all that hot. The colder the water is, the longer the structure is going to last. So it doesn't deteriorate. It doesn't deteriorate as fast and stuff like that. Now you will have certain type of trees, oak, elm, hickory, that kind of stuff, they don't deteriorate as fast. And what happens is the top of the tree will eventually die out from being overwatered, being in the lake. And a storm will come along, it'll snap the top half of the tree off, and it falls down into the water, and you're left with a pretty decent sized stump. And hopefully it's above water so that you can see it, instead of ruining a prop, or putting a big giant hole in your boat or something like that. So,
well, a lot of times them tops, when the water's low, you'll tickle the bottom of them with your boat. But they've been hit before so many times now that the tops of them trees are big limbs now.
Yes.
And the way the water's been the biggest part of the last year, the water's really low, so people are probably hitting stuff that they haven't hit in years and years, because all the lakes are low. And when the rivers are low, the lakes are low too, and all the rivers are low right now. So I'm hoping that the folks up north where Don R is, and some other people that's in here tonight, are getting that snow that they dearly love so much, because we need the melt and runoff to help us out.
We
bad shape.
I think all of our lakes up here are 4 to 6 feet low, depending on which lake you go to.
Yeah.
So we've definitely have to have a lot of moisture and stuff like that to rebuild these stuff. But with the lakes being low, that does kind of work to our advantage. Is you can find where structure may be that you never knew was there.
That's exactly right. Now's a great time to find stuff, to see things that you haven't seen in no telling how long. And a lot of people have never seen it before, and it's a good time to go out and find structure and creations on the bottom of the lakes and rivers that they've never seen before. And if you can't remember things like I can't, you need to make notes
Yeah.
and write this stuff down because it's really important to remember those places when you go back searching for fish and different kinds of fish and different kinds of structure. So that's a big deal to me.
Well, and not only that, but like on Google Earth and some of these other maps and stuff like that, uh, I think Google Earth gets updated once every 3 years. So the picture that you're seeing when you're looking at Google Earth is at least 3 years old, up to 3 years old. So
I just asked Keith. I was really nice when I asked. I didn't make fun of him getting snow this morning or nothing else. But that was a few days ago. He agreed to do this.
it's all lies, Keith. It's all lies. And I'm gonna deviate off from this real quick because I got kind of a funny story to tell about Keith here.
Uh-oh.
So we all know that Chad, Chad. Let's face it, Chad's a dumbass. All right. The only man dumb enough to time out Keith. All right. Chad got, blocked from going to CatCon and it started this whole hoopla and stuff like that. And then Chad went and stole Keith's, bait, thing that he made. So last week or this week on Catfish Weekly, they had a guest on there. And of course you had trolls that just came rolling in there toward the end. And me and I think Matt was, we were working our hardest to try to get these guys timed out and locked from the channel as fast as we can. And Keith's popped up with something in chat. I was a nanosecond away from being the second person to time Keith out. I thought that could not have been good at all. So
time out Keith.
I wasn't the one that did it.
I know.
I almost did, but it would have been pure accident if it had been. Just so you know.
Oh man! Well, that was a lot of information you give us about finding structure and finding fish and things. We mentioned a little bit about the water being so low. Now, you got several ponds on your property up there where you guys live. How
Right.
low are your ponds on private waters?
We've got a couple of ponds that have actually completely dried up this year.
Wow.
But those, you have to understand, we've got 9 ponds here on the property that we have here. And when we run cattle in through there, the cattle are drinking from the gravity flow troughs and stuff like that. So they're consuming quite a bit of it. And others are they're really, really old and they should have been redone years ago. It just got away from us and we haven't done it,
Right.
in a long time. But yeah, I mean, all the lakes around here are low. I mean, and so it's bad. It's bad around
here. Yeah, it is around here too. So, but not as bad as it was. And we got quite a bit of rain. Well, not quite a bit, but a substantial amount in the last 24 hours. So every little bit helps.
Oh yeah. We got a little bit of snow up here.
We're not getting any snow.
We got probably about an inch there today, and it's all.
Let's face it, that's not going to fill your pond.
Well, no, it's not going to fill our pond. No.
Yeah. So
no, we need a good hard downpour rain, and
and it's going to take a hard one that doesn't soak in. You got to have runoff to fill ponds.
Yeah.
So
you do. And most of ours. And the ones that we've built here on the property have been for erosion control purposes. So, and there's still in the works probably about another 2 or 3 ponds that are going to be built. And so we'll eventually get those built and we'll get those stocked, and I'm just not sure with what yet. So
right. One of the things in my area, up by Shell City, places like that where I used to duck hunt, if there's a pond being built in a field out there, it's an irrigation pond.
Yes. Yeah.
And, of course, they have fish in them. And the same thing else, but they're usually put in a spot where the guys don't want you driving out there to get to them, or even walking out there to get to them. Now, we used to lease a lake to duck hunt on, and it was probably, I'm going to say 5 acres. And it was really, really deep, but it was set in the middle of a huge cornfield, and it was 7 miles from Shell City. It was a perfect distance when the ducks come up in the morning off of the refuge and they go out to feed. They hit that cornfield and it was game on. It was
game on then.
Oh yeah, it was a great place to duck hunt. We had a floating blind on and all stuff.
Wish you'd kept all those feathers that you from them ducks you shot years ago now, huh?
I sure do. But those ponds are a resource that if you can get in with somebody, because those guys don't care about the fish. As a general rule, they'll go fish it 1 or 2 times a year, and that's it.
See, and
they work. That pond is put there to make them money. So if you can get in with one of them guys that's had ponds in there for 20 years, there's no telling what size fish is in them ponds.
Right. See, one of the problems that we run into around here is, we've got quite a few acres of land here, and we've got quite a bit of pond, and my backyard is nothing but timber for 40 acres. The farm next to us, they've got probably close to 5,000 acres. Then there's another one up the road that is related to Katie, and they've got probably close to 10,000 acres.
Wow.
And I have access to fish all of these ponds and stuff like that. And I do from time to time. I generally stay away from fishing, private ponds and stuff like that, just kind of as a rule of thumb. It's nothing personal, but I mean, if I can't get out anywhere, it's somewhere for me to go as a backup. And I don't want to run the risk of either, leaving trash behind, because trust me, people are jerks when it comes to trash.
Yes, they are.
And that's how a lot of people lose a lot of good private ponds and lands and stuff like that is because, you allow one person, well, that one person takes their buddy, and their buddy ends up like, well, he got permission, and they gives me permission to go whenever I want, and he takes a crew in there. And next thing you know, there's beer cans and cigarette butts and, bait containers left behind. And the farmer's just like, no, you're done. So,
and that's the worst thing can happen to somebody that's got property is them leaving. It ruins it for everyone.
Yeah.
Really does. Melissa wants to know, James, are you still doing your show, Dockery Tide Jigs Workstation and more?
Every great once in a while I am, but you guys have to understand that right now, this is a really busy time of year for Katie and I. A lot of you know that we volunteer for the Missouri Department of Conservation. Last year, we started to volunteer for the Missouri State Parks, teaching some of the classes that we've taught for Missouri there. And now we just got to fill the paperwork out. We've already talked to one of the head honchos of Outdoor Skills of America. They also need help, and they're an actual true nonprofit organization that brings disabled hunters and fishermen and stuff like that, and actual regular people into the outdoors to help them get started as far as knowledge of the hunting and the fishing aspect to what to expect and how to do it. So when we have free time and we're not running and doing meetings or classes and all this stuff, then I'll pop in and do a show. But it was never meant to be a full-time gig. I am not a YouTuber, guys. I'm really not. So, but I'll eventually do another show, or Josh will pick a night and do a tie night, or Lyle will, or Mark will, or Chad will, and we'll just jump on there and cut loose. Okay. And no, I live in Northeast Missouri.
I knew that. Here's a great comment. People who don't pick up their trash are garbage themselves.
That is very, very true.
That is very true. It really is.
And that was another thing. Katie and I are part of the Missouri Stream Team, so we go out and pick up all that garbage and stuff that people leave behind. And look, I smoke. I'm be the first to admit that, but I don't leave my cigarette butts behind. I don't want somebody fishing in my ashtray. I'm sure as the hell not gonna, use their fishing spot as an ashtray. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
if you're smoking out on the water, take you a bag to put your cigarette butts in, guys. I mean, seriously, it's not going to kill you to take them home, unless you leave them in your pocket and don't pull them out. Your wife washes your jeans or shirt.
How's that work out for you?
Not very well. And most of this information that I'm giving you guys is firsthand knowledge.
I want to touch on something else to see if you know anything about this. There is on the east side of the state, there is a bunch of trout fishing places, and there's a name for it, and I can't recall what it is, where it's a deal that you fish these trout places and you can earn recognition for fishing so many of them or all of them or something. Or you?
Yeah, there's a bronze medal, a silver medal, and a gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not familiar too often much with that. I read about it a couple of years ago when they very first started it, and I thought, hey, that's something for me to do. And well, life just kicked me straight in the teeth, and it was just like, that's it.
Yeah, I understand. But I didn't know if you was aware of that. I was not, and just became aware of it in the last couple of weeks, uh, watching some guys' videos online, and I've watched so many that the trout stuff I hadn't, so I watched a few of them, and they kept talking about this, and that's why I was going to ask you about it. And I was kind of saving that for tonight.
A lot of states and stuff like that, they have some sort of a big fish award program. If you catch a big fish and you release it back into the water, I think Ohio gives out pins. Missouri, I know, gives out certificates. I'm not sure about the other states and stuff like that, but
what do they call that in Missouri?
Master Angler Award.
Master Angler, yeah. And I think you're right. I think most states have a deal like that, and the fish have to be a certain size to qualify for the master. But you can get and I know you're a whole record holder of several of those Master Angler Awards, but they have to be a certain size in every species.
Yes. Well, that is true. And I've got one Missouri State record right at the moment. It's the shovelhead sturgeon. But I've had the golden eye shad. My son has the green-eared sunfish at the moment, I do believe, for alternative. But these awards, and they're no more than bragging.
Yeah.
Just accomplishments, of saying, hey, look, I can do this. Well, it is, but I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I've probably fished just a little bit too much. I mean, I really don't think so. I've got a doctor that says that I don't, but Katie gets uppity sometimes when I'm like, hey, I want to fish today.
If you got a doctor that says it's okay, you're kind of home free.
Well, see, that's kind of what I thought too, but apparently Katie rules the roost, and she kind of.
If you quit catching her chicken and trying to use it for bait.
Listen, I don't catch the chicken to use the chicken for bait. I catch the chicken to pluck the feathers, to use the feathers to make flies and jigs. And then I turn the chicken loose back into the yard.
That's right, Jerry. Jerry says the Master Angler Awards requirements aren't out of reach.
No, and they're really not, guys. I think last year I had, I want to say around 25 to 30 fish that qualified for Master Angler.
Now, can you get that more than once on the same?
Oh yeah, you can get them as multiple times as you want and stuff like that. My thing is once I get one, that's it. I move on to the next species that I'm targeting and stuff like that. And that's what, that's usually what I'll do some years is I will go after what we call niche fishing, where it's not the common fish. It's, a sucker or, a certain type of a sunfish or something like that. That's not really all that common. But I feel like I want to target it. So that's what I do.
You mentioned the dollar sunfish earlier in the show.
Yes.
Was not aware that we had those in Missouri. I thought they was further south
No,
than
no,
Missouri.
there's some inside some small streams and creeks and stuff like that in eastern Missouri, southeast Missouri and stuff like that. But
They're cute little boogers.
they are, and don't get me wrong, some of the species of fish and stuff like that of the sunfish category and stuff are they're really not pretty fish. They're really not. But I mean,
I
it's still
wonder
a
how
fish.
many people
So
have used them for flathead bait.
probably more than you could think.
I bet you're right.
I'm thinking that any fish that looks like a sunfish, and let's be honest, a good chunk of people, if they catch a bluegill, whether it's a red-eared sunfish, a green sunfish,
They're all bluegills.
they're all bluegills.
Yeah.
So
Or
they
perch.
don't know the difference.
A lot
They
of
just
people, where I
yeah.
grew up, a lot of people call everything's a perch, and they're no.
Yeah, well, I see, and perch is a totally different species of fish altogether. So
That's correct. Michael Murillo says, when I found your name in the Missouri State Fishing Records, I thought it was Austin, Mr. Dockery. That isn't any little thing in my book. That's great stuff. And I agree with you, Michael. I really do. If you can make it in the state record books, that's an accomplishment. Parker said, caught state record red ear, didn't realize it a few years back and released it to the grease.
ain't nothing wrong with that. Hey, listen,
They're pretty good eating.
Katie caught the state record white bass here 4 years ago, and I filleted up, not even realizing it until afterwards. And it was
She
like,
was proud of you.
oh,
We was on a skipjack trip, and Doc Lang was down there, and he had his grandson who is now in college. He was 8 years old at the time, and I caught a over 3 pound skipjack. We was on a skipjack fact finding mission,
mission. Yeah.
And Doc says, "Man, you should have turned that in. That's got to be a state record." He said, "It's just the state record is just over 3 pounds." I said, "It's already froze up and in the vacuum seal bag. It's too late."
Yep. It's turning into bait.
Yeah, I'm not taking it back out to have it checked. So, James, one of these nights when we have you on here, I think we could make a show out of talking about the gold with the awards that you can win from Missouri, and I know other people could check their states and find out, but the Master Angler Awards is like you say, it's not that hard to do, but you got to work at it a little bit to get it done. And we could go over some of the things that are on that. I have a list of it printed out somewhere around here. But
Yeah, so do I.
that might make a pretty fun show to do. That way people can see that it's really doable.
But and here's the thing, all right, and people need to understand this. And the Master Angler Awards are really, really actually pretty easy to get. The biggest obstacle in your way, going fishing.
You got to go.
Turn off the YouTube cameras. Leave your cell phone in your pocket and just fish.
Yep.
And and if you fish enough, you're going to get lucky enough to trip over a couple of decent sized fish. Point blank and simple.
That's exactly right. And if you're interested in doing a Master Angler Award, you can print all that information out off of the Missouri Department of Conservation website, put it in one of them clear things that you put in a notebook page. I don't know what they call them, but clear plastic, and you slide that down in there, and then you'll know what the specifications are when you go out. Just keep it with you. And if you go a lot, you'll eventually find one that qualifies you for whichever type of fish and then you just take the measurements and stuff and send it in to them. I think they should require a picture. They do not.
They don't, but you can actually submit a picture, and they will actually right, and they will actually print that picture on your certificate and stuff like that. To give you guys kind of an idea, I think the bluegill requirements for a Master Angler in Missouri is only 1 pound. Crappie is 2 pounds, but you can also go
pound
by,
bluegill's a pretty good sized fish.
yeah, but you can also go by length. So if your fish
Right.
isn't heavy enough, then you can go by length and stuff like that too. So
Mark says the Illinois Master Angler Award is pretty difficult. You need 5 trophy class fish of a different species. At least that's what it was 2 years ago.
see, and that's something that I've actually been talking to see about. Is making it a little bit more harder, to actually receive some of these awards and stuff like that for the fishing and stuff, and make it worth people getting out and actually spending time out on the water. So, but
yeah,
they're not going to change their ways, as I say.
No, probably not. Maybe something to think about, James, is leave the Master Angler Award where it's at, and then call it something else, and have a harder to reach, like the Illinois one is, for the other people that have already accomplished everything they want to do at the Master, to like a notch above,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but somebody can figure that out if they wanted to.
Yeah. I think at last time I checked, I want to say 23 different species that I have actually gotten the Master Angler Awards on.
23.
But over the years and stuff like that, you put them in a drawer thinking, oh, I'm going to frame them and hang it up. And it's just, they start collecting. So I've got some hung up, others I have, Katie's got put it somewhere.
I used to do that with tagged banded geese and ducks. And I would always send the stuff in. They send you a little certificate back. And I was always going to do that. Well, I never did do it. And the other day I found some from the 1990s where I had killed them and sent them in. I found a stack of them about this thick. I got in a year or two, And I thought, man, I should have done something with that. And I really should have. But that's like NASCAR diecast. I got a pretty good selection of them, and I always had it in my mind that I was going to build an oval racetrack, and when we was in the business, I would mount that up and change it out every year and put the new cars on that.
The new cars in there.
Walked in the shop, they could see that, and now all they do is sit in the totes out in the shed.
Yeah. Well, and another of the programs here that Missouri offers is sometimes they'll actually go out and tag. They'll tag crappie or flathead or and stuff like that. And what they're doing that for is for a survey, to see exactly how many of these fish are actually being caught and stuff like that. That they're stocking into these waters. And a lot of times these tags that they are using are worth $25 to $50 a pop. Yeah. So if you can catch one of those, it might pay for
you might mention where they tag those fish. And by the way, before anybody starts in on this, I have begged the Missouri Department of Conservation to let me have a tagging program. It is against the law in Missouri, and the fine is astronomical if they catch you tagging a fish in the state of Missouri. Exactly. They are the only ones that's going to tag fish in Missouri. So,
and you can actually, there was a guy up here a while back that was using a hole punch. And he was punching a hole and exactly, and that's what they got him for that. And the fine was it's pretty rough. Yeah, and that's another thing. If you put your own habitat or your structure and stuff like that, if you're dropping trees in for crappie and stuff like that, check your regulations, because there's some lakes and stuff like that allow it, and others. I know Thomas Hill, one of the requirements for there is you actually have to mark on a GPS. You're supposed to mark on a GPS where all those structures are, but they don't. But
they tell me at Lake Ozark, right after Christmas time, usually every year, that at night you can hear boats running all over that lake, dropping Christmas trees in areas all over, because they don't want anybody to know where they're putting them.
Well, and
I'm sure that's right,
And it's the same thing on Mark Twain. There's a large group of people that'll go out and drop their own structures in and stuff like that. And every year the Missouri Department of Conservation and Mark Twain Lake itself, they beg people, come out and help us build these, these structure beds and stuff like that. And they may get 10 or 15 people to show up, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, and it usually takes a lot longer than what it should if people would just, pitch in and get it done.
Yeah. One of these days, here's a thought that we'd meet up at Mark Twain and go fishing with Dennis up there, Northeast Missouri Angler.
Hey, there we go. Well, he was down at, I saw a while ago where he said he was down at Thomas Hill a couple of times. I haven't been down there this year. So I don't know how the fishing has been or anything, but I know from the bank the last time I was down there, I fished all along T-Bridge and the ADA dock, and it was just every cast you were catching on somebody else's structure or crappie bed, whatever you want to call them, and it gets aggravating after a while.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember the last time I was at Thomas Hill. There's a place over there where you used to ride dirt bikes and 4-wheelers and 3-wheelers, and
that's a state park.
Yeah, that's the last time I was over there, though, was back in them days, and that was before I had kids, and they're 40 years old. So, It's been a long time since I've been in that area at all. So, well, if anybody's got any more questions or got any questions for James now, it'd be a great time to get them out of here before we wrap her up. But, we got some plans and some stuff that's going to happen this year, and James and I are going to have to get together and do some more fishing. That's all.
I'm trying to get down through there and hopefully fish Pompterre with you and Ozarks and Truman and stuff like that.
How far is Mark Twain from Glad Mountain? I don't have any idea where Glade or Glad Mountain is. Mark Twain Lake is in the north central part of Missouri. So it's up there it's up in Dockeryville.
Yeah.
It's a long way for me.
Mark, I'm depending on how big the Christmas tree is, but most generally about 5 years. 5 years you want to refresh any type of natural habitat that you've put in to any body of water.
And a simple concrete block will hold almost of those.
And for those of us that live actually up where we get ice to actually ice fish, if you drop that tree out on the ice, you don't even have to use a brick or anything. You can just set it out there on the ice. Now, granted, somebody may move it around or whatever the case may be, but if you do it right around Christmas time, by the time that ice thaws out, that tree will automatically fall to the bottom right there without any weight or anything like that. So, but you're better off actually using a brick or something like that to weigh it down, because if somebody, gets a hold of it with a line or something like that, they'll drag it in. And trust me, I've seen people use 20 and 30 pound test line, use it for fishing for crappie. So they will pull that all the way in thinking it's a big fish or something. So
snagging from spoonies.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Thank you so much. We enjoy having James on the show. He does a great job, and he's a wealth of information. And James, I really appreciate you coming on here tonight. And I want to make sure everybody keeps Mark and Sheila in their thoughts and prayers, because we need to get things back on the straight and narrow over at his place. And Mark will be back next week, so we should be back on the straight and narrow. But the information that you shared with everybody tonight was really quality stuff, and finding fish, in my mind, a lot of it's finding the right kind of structure. And if you can find those places like you was talking about that's got those drop cedar trees or whatever in there, check these places out. Avionics, Missouri Department of Conservation marks them places every time they make a structure. Hidden structure place, so you can find that stuff. Go fish them. That's why they put it in there for. I mean,
exactly. And guys, and if you want, especially if you're talk to your conservation department. They are more than willing to work with you if you think that an area that you've been fishing needs structure for panfish, and ask them about it.
Yeah.
And they may work with you to, to either allow you to place it in there, or they'll actually go and cut the trees down and drop it in there.
Yep.
And, so work with them. You're not going to change them unless you actually start helping them.
Well, that's exactly right. They'll work with you if you'll help them do some things.
Right.
And it doesn't hurt to volunteer to help them.
Right. And that's the key thing. And if you want to make changes, you're going to have to step up.
That's right.
Writing a firmly worded letter on a letterhead and saying that you're a big corporation or a 501c3 that demands a state change their laws, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get them to do what you're wanting. Show up at the meetings.
That's right.
Show up at
you have to make an attempt.
Even if you're the only one there, talk to them. Talk to the fisheries biologists, talk to the game wardens, talk to the area supervisors, all that stuff. Get in the game. If you're truly, into conservation and stuff like that, get involved. I saw Luke Hinches was in here.
Luke is welcome.
Yeah, Luke is he's on a board. Several boards on fishing up in his area. He does a lot of work. This is the type of things that we're going to have to, or the people that we're going to need if we are actually going to make changes that we would want to see as far as pay lakes. And I'm not saying all pay lakes are bad. I'm talking about the ones that are taking fish out of the Mississippi and the Ohio and those type. If you're going to want to make those changes, what's that?
Nobody cares if they have farm-raised channel cat pay lakes.
No, nobody does. Or carp or bluegill.
Nobody cares if they got those.
Nobody cares. But when you're pulling 40, 50, 60-pound fish out of the Missouri and Mississippi, Ohio, all those rivers to put into a pay lake just to have them die, that's when you're going to start pissing on.
That's when you have a problem. That's right.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, just so everybody knows, Luke was the original add-on son.
Yes, he was. But he lost that status. He knows what he did. He knows what he did.
Oh, man. Luke, we got to get you back on here one of these days. We haven't had you on a show in a long time. It's about time. James, thank you again for coming in tonight and helping us out tonight and sharing the wealth of information. And I'm looking forward to getting together with you, doing some fishing this year. We're going to have a great time, whether we catch any fish or not.
That's just it.
The last time we got together, I didn't catch any fish, but I had a wonderful time. So if we can do that again.
Yeah, but the time before that, you only caught a pike, I do believe.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
Cindy, Katie, and me caught all the fish.
Yeah.
So
that's okay. I don't care.
Huh?
I don't care. I got
just saying. Well, no, Cindy has the boat. Cindy is the boat.
Excuse me. You're right about that too.
So, yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching tonight. Be sure to tune in next Thursday night. We're right after the bait shop as always. And Monday night, Catfish Weekly comes on at 7 o'clock, followed by the Catfish and Crappie podcast. See you then.